You know, Marth, I know you and your army are probably tired, but staying at Port Warren for months on end, I don't really think that was the best idea. Now, normally I don't really like to acknowledge if I take really long breaks, but, it's been quite a while since I've actually had to do commentary for Shadow Dragon, and I did want to catch up with my own playthrough, rewatch everything so I remember what I said, but haven't had the chance to do that just yet, so bear with me if I do repeat myself a little bit. Now watch as I go over the entire tutorial again. Nah, not really. Okay, so, I am missing a few people here, but that's just because I pretty much have the team I want at the moment, and I could probably use a few extra units, but, technically speaking, I'm already doing that with Merrick, because I am not going to be using him for too much longer, because my favorite mage in the game is actually coming up fairly soon. Not this chapter, though. And in fact, we only get one new character this chapter. And unfortunately, we have our first enemy Monarchets. Now, we did get Bantu recently, but, Bantu himself is a decent unit, he's a dragon, that's pretty cool, but, he is fairly weak when it comes to actually fighting. Enemy Monarchets, though, are not exactly a force to be reckoned with per se, but you will find them very tough. Do not just send any unit in willy-nilly and expect them to exactly survive. Make note, of course, the fact that their stats will rise when they actually transform, so you can't exactly trust what their stats are on their own. And add that to the fact that they are just very tough units to pretty much everyone. They're hard to damage, they do a lot of damage, so don't send any weak units their way, and for the love of God, don't send any slow units their way either, because if you do, oh boy, that's not going to end well. We'll talk a little more about him later, though, because I do want to discuss strategy. First things first, I have Roger here. I'm not going to be using him permanently or anything, but he is very useful for my strategy, in that I want him to warp over to the treasure chest over there. See this one right here? The thief in this chapter starts pretty close to this treasure chest, and quite frankly, I will not make it in time if I try to go over, and I prefer not to let that thief have his way with that chest. Whatever's in there, I want it. I could probably use Jeorge as well, but, I don't think I've actually used him since, Chapter 1, was it? So, he's probably in no condition to actually fight, and Roger's a little more up-to-date in this case, which is going to be needed because, as you saw, those enemy archers were also moving over to him, and, I don't know what Jeorge's defense is at the moment, but I'd just prefer to have my latest general go in there. Other than that, it's not really too difficult a chapter. I'm going to send a small force off with Marth to go to that village over there. Gonna be getting one character, just like the last chapter. Actually, no. I keep thinking the last chapter was, the one with Minerva in it, but no. It was actually, the one where you get Caesar and Rad, where you get quite a few characters, actually, including Roger here. Again, I'm sorry, it is just gonna take me a little while to remember all this. But anyway, yeah, fairly easy. I'm just gonna actually kill the thief over here. I could just have Cain hang out on the village, which is also effective, but honestly, it's not putting him in any danger to just go over and just kill the thief out and out. As for this area, now, I am sending my largest force over there, I got plenty of units, but the problem is, that area up there is very thin, and you can't really send too many units in at a time. The pirates coming in from behind really aren't a problem, but getting units over to a good position kind of is, and I'm not really going to be able to take care of everyone over here just right off the bat. Thankfully, though, I can get a fair few, including this archer. That's kind of the most important thing, considering Sada's right there, though, to be fair, Navarre would have just completely blocked him from getting to... Actually, wait, no, if that area above where the archer was counts, then... Yeah, that wouldn't have ended too well, because he could stand right there, so yeah, good thing I took out the archer first. Devil Axe, I am kind of surprised actually hit, but You know, it's Bantu, so he's not the best. He's a little old, even for a dragon, who generally the Monokets are pretty good even in old age, but Bantu, unfortunately, he just kinda sucks. Now, the other problem here is we don't have that many anti-dragon weapons, so the boss is going to be problematic as well, but perhaps this character could help us. This is Jeorge. He's not really my favorite archer, but he does start pre-promoted. So he was the only person to escape. There were a few other captives as well, but Jeorge is the only one who got out in time. And he's going to lend his bow to us, so that's pretty good. Especially since Jeorge here starts out as a pretty solid unit overall. He's got a B rank in bows, meaning he can put that silver bow to good use right off the bat, and he's got the highest skill and speed of all of the archers we've met so far. That being said, though, all of his other stats aren't quite as good. He doesn't have the strength of Castor, nor does he have the survivability of Gordon. So, unfortunately, alongside the fact that he's already a sniper and only has 19 levels to gain before he hits his cap, he's not quite as good as they might be. That being said, though, skill and speed are both very good stats for an archer to have, so he might not have as much time to grow, but he's not useless by any means. I will assume that future me has done plenty of talking by now. But yeah, mainly the silver bow is pretty good. That coupled with his fairly decent speed at the moment, you know, all in all make him a pretty good unit for this chapter. Now, granted, I probably won't need to use him, because I think I can take a Monoket on my own. Of course, as I said before, I will need to be cautious because, well, he will destroy me if I'm not too careful. Now, the nice thing is, sometimes Monokets and dragons and the like can actually attack you from a distance, such as the Fire Dragon from the end of Fire Emblem 7, if you remember that, you know, the second playthrough I ever did, which was also kind of shit, and also half of it isn't even available to watch, so you probably haven't watched it anyway, but nonetheless, the final boss of that could attack from a distance, and that's what made him dangerous. Here, though, Monokets can only attack from one space away, so the nice thing is, you can just kind of, well, maybe not. Depending on how good your mages and archers are, they might be able to just attack him from a distance, but the problem is, archers might not have enough attack, and Monokets can have some pretty decent resistance, though. There is one type of Monoket that is actually pretty good overall in terms of resisting magic. Of course, it's not really a type of Monoket, it's more so the type of Dragonstone they use. Because, of course, we're going to be seeing a lot of Firestones early on, but later they actually do get other types of Dragonstones. In fact, there's actually going to be one unique to the player characters, so that's pretty nice. We'll have an advantage over them in that respect, but again, that's for later, not now. For now, it's just Firestone, which is very, very basic. So as long as you can overcome a Firestone, you're in a pretty good standing, I gotta say. So yeah, we're actually doing pretty damn well. Really, my only concern for Roger at the moment, I want to call him Drog, is that archer over there. Since he's standing on the treasure chest, there's no chance of that thief actually stealing anything from it. And quite frankly, I don't think the thief's gonna do anything to Roger anyway. Of course, this is a pretty dangerous situation right here. Got two archers, and unfortunately it looks like I'm going to have to leave Harden to himself unless I can get another unit over there. Yeah, look at that. 0 damage. That guy ain't gonna have a good time, let me tell ya. Wonder if he's gonna try to attack Roger. I mean, he probably shouldn't, but, yeah. Fortunately, I think I can get somebody else in from over there. Either that, or Sada's just gonna have to tank a hit, which she might be able to do. She's She's gonna have to do that, actually, unfortunately. But to be fair, I am kind of worried about Harden on his own. I mean, he is a pretty decent unit, but 2 archers might be a little much for him. Especially those archers. And with his previous injuries as well. And this is about as much as I'm gonna do. Didn't really hit too many snags up until this point. It's pretty much just those 2 archers being right there, but for the most part, even having to go through that little choke point right there and not having enough units for when we had the bulk of the enemies, you know, that really wasn't too bad. That didn't take much for me to get rid of those guys. Yeah. So, perhaps there is some sort of dragon-slaying weapon nearby after all. And unfortunately, no, I can't get Jeorge over in time. Ah well. Good luck, Seda. Ooh, jeez. Yeah, I don't exactly like to rely on luck when Seda is kind of screwed if she gets hit at all, but, you know, that worked out pretty well. She managed to dodge an arrow. I mean, the fact that I'm using this take is kind of obvious that she dodged the arrow, because if she didn't, well, yeah, that would have restarted and you wouldn't have been seeing any of this, so, yep, that works. And now a single archer should not be a problem. That being said, a whole lot of pirates when I have a lance user or 2 over here, not the best thing, but honestly with Jeorge nearby, he should be able to sweep them no problem. Because, and I can't go as far as I wanted him to, but nonetheless, it's not really too terribly problematic, because I got a whole lot of units there otherwise, and they're all in pretty decent health. You know, could be better, but could be worse. And, yeah, just keep on going after this guy. I'm a little worried about the axe user, actually. But, as long as I keep the thief here, then the axe user can't actually hit me unless he has a hand axe, but I don't think he does. And that guy has a hammer. Wrong place, dude. You should be all the way over at the chest, because I don't use knights normally. Not a huge fan of the knights, but I've probably gone over that fact before. I'm not huge on knights just because they just take way too long getting from place to place. I mean, it varies by game, of course. Awakening especially is actually much better about that, depending on what they can reclass into or just who they pair up with. They don't have to worry about getting around or being too slow to do so. But in earlier games like this one, I find they just take way too long. I prefer higher movement units. Just because I can do a battle pretty quickly, don't have to leave anyone behind, and in fact, that's actually kind of a running joke in Genealogy of the Holy Wars. The first knight you get is kind of like, hey, I don't want to just stay home and guard the front. I get left behind all the time. Why do you guys do that? Probably, though, because you have a whole lot of cavalier units that just move across the map very quickly. The giant maps, might I add. But then you just have knights who don't really move that far at all, and it's kind of obvious why you wouldn't want to use them. But that's enough rambling about that. Actually, I have to admit, these pirates are coming in pretty quickly. That's pretty much their only advantage, but even then, it's not a problem. Actually, I probably shouldn't have done that. I probably should just send Julian over to this shrine over here, just so he can retrieve that blade that might very well be useful against dragons. Wink wink, nudge nudge. And also, let's just come in and save the day. I mean, I know Cain is a lance user against a few axe users, but, quite frankly, I'm not worried about Cain's health at all. He is, well, very, very good. You don't have to worry about him dying, generally anyway. I mean, he's not completely invincible, but he does tear through units pretty easily. He is pretty good overall. And that... oh, wait. Not too bad. Seda had health to spare, and there are no other units around me that can be a threat, so that's pretty good there. Now, we're pretty much done with the enemy units, but we still have the boss to deal with. Oh, what? Spoke too soon. There's a whole lot of guys now. But again, they shouldn't be too problem. We've got them in check at this point. That was completely unnecessary, Cain, but I thank you for it anyway. And now, Roger can just go home and relax. His duty is done. He's taken quite a few hits, especially from archers, but all in all, he made it through just fine. Again, I forget what Jeorge's defense is, but the fact that Roger is the most recent unit that I got definitely works in my favor, I think. And not bad, not bad, and not... oh wait, there are a few more. Not bad, not even an issue. There we go. Alright, well, I guess we'll just play cleanup with these guys. Monoket's just going to stand over there, not doing anything. He's gonna watch over. He really hates us humans, which is why he's just going to stand in front of his castle seething for a while. I did forget his name, to be honest. He's just a generic Monoket unit. Nothing too special about him, other than the fact that he is one of the first Monokets we have to fight, which definitely makes a difference, but it is kind of nice that he's just hanging out and that he is the boss, so we don't have to worry about him moving about the map in order to attack us, because Monokets aren't just going to be bosses, they will be standard enemies later, and when that happens, well, oh, that's not fun. That being said, though, we've pretty much got the rest of this covered, so we just have time to relax, see how much damage everyone's gonna do, or if they're going to die horribly if they even look at him funny, but for the most part, yeah, we've got this in the bag. I would like to send my tougher units over there first, like Kane. I'm pretty sure Kane has most of this covered. I probably won't really get Julian over there in time to actually be effective, but I could wait around for Julian to get that dragon-slaying sword or whatever it happens to be, but I don't want to wait around that long. As it stands, it's going to take a while to get the units I want to use over to him. Actually, I probably should have Board go over there just because he's one of my highest damage dealers, but apparently I decided not to do that. Don't know why I didn't do that. Past self, it would have been a much better idea to get one of your highest damage dealers over there. And I guess I just ended up getting the Wormslayer anyway. So, I think since Navarre's a bit of a lower level than Ogma, I'll trust him with the Wormslayer. Why did I call it a lance? This is about as set up as it's going to get, I suppose. And yeah, 5 damage is decent, especially since he's not going to counterattack. Really doesn't like humans. But it doesn't matter. Actually, he's got some pretty good evasion as well, because I don't think Caster's skill is too bad, but yeah, he's down to 70s. I don't know if it's just the throne, or the castle gate rather, or just the fact that he's a tough unit in general, but nah, I'd go so far as to say as he's a tough unit, because, quite frankly, thrones and castle gates and just ending points in general don't really do most bosses good once your units are good enough. So the fact that he's a very good Monoket must make a huge difference. That being said, though, his damage is pretty good, and thankfully, his accuracy isn't amazing either. That didn't help me there, but, you know, you have a chance, and that's better than no chance. That's not gonna work. Alright, well, Navarre, it's your time to shine. Wormslayered up. And wow, even Navarre has an 80% hit chance. Thankfully, 80% is still pretty good, and this isn't Fire Emblem 6, so yeah, that worked out pretty well, and I wouldn't exactly call Navarre a coward. He really likes violence, and I mean he really likes it. Talks about it all the time. He's just A-okay with killing. But that's just about it. That was definitely a tough unit to deal with. He's been a lot more powerful than most human units, but in the end, thanks to the fact that there was only one and he was standing still, we were really able to do some damage, and hey, it's one of the White Wings. I take the fact that you haven't killed us already, or at least tried to, as a good thing. Well, we already knew, or at least we, the players and viewers, knew, that Minerva wasn't really a bad person, but looks like next time on Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, we're going to be helping her finally get out of the clutches of Dolor.